It's national meets regional. Welcome to Sidewalks Entertainment, the long-running celebrity, music, and art series. Join us now for an exciting new path to celebrity interviews, music, rising talents.
World. He's a best-selling author and has hosted several Travel Channel shows. He's here today to talk about his journey around the globe from his show Expedition Unknown. I'd like to welcome explorer Josh Gates to Sidewalks. Josh, thank you so much for being here.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So really quick, before we get into Expedition Unknown, I thought I would, get to know you more and learn about your early beginnings. And I was curious, when did you get the bug to become a traveler and explorer?
That's a great question. I think it was kind of in my DNA. My father is American, my mother is British. So from an early age, we would travel across the pond over to the UK to visit my family there. So I was logging a lot of time on planes as a young kid, and I think was exposed to this idea from an early age that, hey, wait, there's a big world out there. My father, who's retired now, was a commercial deep sea diver, so he was always coming back from, exotic ports of call from around the world, and coming back from Africa or the North Sea of Scotland. And so it's something that was always kind of around me, this idea of travel and this sort of international vibe. And so I think that's where it started. That, and I watched the Goonies a lot as a kid.
I was going to say, okay, that's probably what inspired it mostly, is the Goonies.
Right.
Well, and then I read about you, Josh, that you actually studied archaeology as well in college?
Yeah, I went to Tufts University in Boston and studied archaeology. Had a real interest in marine archaeology. I wanted to go into underwater archaeology. Got a little sideswept to Los Angeles, and before I know it, fell into the world of TV. And so now I have this really amazing opportunity to travel the world and meet these incredible explorers and archaeologists that are doing daring work around the world, and to tell their stories and to tell the stories of great archaeological treasures and legends and mysteries.
Right on. Well, you've actually hosted some Travel Channel's, legendary locations and Destination Truth, just to kind of name a few. But I'm curious, because you've been doing all of this traveling with people and yourself, what have been some of your favorite destinations?
Oh, how long's your show? I kind of find something to love about everywhere. I particularly love Southeast Asia. I've always been a nut for Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam. That's the part of the world that I really gravitate towards. I love the food, I love the culture, I love the people. It's just an incredible place. And so, I always think that question is such a personal question. I think for everybody it's different. You just find things that you latch onto. For me, every time I get off the plane in Southeast Asia, I kind of have this weird feeling that I'm home. I just love it there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I'm a fan of that area too. In particular, actually, it's probably another area of the world, but the Philippines, I don't know if you've been there, but that is probably one of the most beautiful places if you ever get to go, if you haven't been.
Yeah, Philippines is amazing, and it's also one of those places that there's so many islands and so many little nooks and crannies that you could go to the Philippines a million times and you'd never see it all.
That's so true. It's so true. Well, let's dive in a little bit here into Expedition Unknown, the search for Afterlife. My goodness, let me just tell you, I was a little scared to watch a little bit of the trailer. I was like, what is this, something about haunted, ghost house? And I was like, what is this about? So can you tell us a little bit about this show and what you ended up doing?
Sure. The premise of the show is to go around the world to different cultures, to meet different experts who are dealing with this question of the afterlife. It's something that we all think about. We all have a vested interest in, what happens when we die. So this 4-part special is really an opportunity to dig into that question and see how different people deal with the afterlife around the world, and also to see if there's evidence. Can we prove the afterlife is real? So that's really the mission.
Wow. I mean, that is a very big question to ask. When I saw the topic, I was like, wow, the meaning of life. It's like finding out the meaning of life, or like finding out if we have something that happens after we die. I mean, that's pretty deep, and we can have a long conversation. We'd have to have like a couple cocktails and talk about this.
That's
Josh.
Right, exactly. It is one of those kind of black hole topics, and so we really wanted to approach it by talking to people that could really give us insights into the question. The easiest way to investigate the afterlife would be to go there, but unfortunately that's a one-way trip. But for a select group of people, it isn't. So we managed to meet with near-death experiencers, people who died and then were resuscitated. So they offered some amazing insights into their experiences. We met with neurosurgeons that are, looking at this link between consciousness and death and what happens in the brain in those moments right after we die. And so we've
that's
really tried to
crazy.
look at it through a lot of different angles.
Oh, wow. I can only imagine what happens because you hear so many stories about the ayahuasca experience and it can go in many directions. So,
Yes, all at once sometimes.
hopefully yours was an okay one.
Well, you know, it is, if you talk to people who've done it, it can be a profound experience that people find very joyous and very wondrous, and it can be absolutely terrifying. And I think most people who've done it will tell you that it's both of those things, and that was certainly my experience.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I would do it, but hey, it's always interesting to see what other people have done when or how they've experienced it. So, you know, and speaking of, you know, getting into this whole death idea, we tend to have an aversion to death, you know, and some cultures embrace it. You know, here in the States, probably not so much, but I know like in my culture, Mexico, we celebrate Dia de los Muertos. So I don't know if that was some place that you've also maybe explored, or have you ever been to Mexico?
It's a place that we explored. We actually did a whole Day of the Dead segment on a different Expedition Unknown episode that was about the Maya and the Maya underworld. But that's a great example. You know, largely in the States, as you said, we do have an avoidance of death. And it's often kind of surprising for people who live in the States to go to other cultures and really see this openness about death. And Dia de los Muertos is a perfect example. In the Afterlife special, we do travel to Indonesia to meet with a tribe who takes it even a step further and actually takes the dead bodies of their relatives and their loved ones and brings those bodies into their homes. They actually live with the dead. And it's something that from the outside we just think of as absolutely, you know, macabre and sort of ghoulish. But when you see it and when you spend time in the culture, you realize that what they've really done is they've normalized death and they've made it a part of life. And that's something that that you see in many cultures around the world, a real kind of open, honest conversation about death that we really don't often have here in the West.
Yeah. And it's just so important because it obviously affects your life. When you think about your time here on Earth, and that, I mean, I'm going to get a little deep here, Josh. Like you think about how you experience your life and the things that you go through and how short it can be and the things that, you know, people have to go through. Some people have shorter lives than others. And it's just so, it's very impactful, I feel, to think about, you know, death and what you want to do in your life when you are on Earth, correct?
That's right. It's an important question. And you know, as they say, none of us is getting out of here alive. So it's something that we should all be talking about because we're all going to have, no matter what culture you're from, no matter whether you're rich or poor or you come from one side of the planet or the other, we're all going on the same journey. And so it is something I think that actually should unite us a lot more than it does because we all have a common experience headed our way at some unknown point, hopefully very far in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. Now, Josh, obviously you've been everywhere. I wanted to ask, where is a place or a place you haven't been to yet that you're dying to go to? Sorry, I had to play on that word.
Dying to go to. That was good. That was very good. You know, it's funny. People always sort of think, oh, you know, the more you travel, you must check all these places off your bucket list. To me, it's sort of the opposite. It's like the more you travel, the more you realize all these other places that you never knew about that you wanted to go. So my list just seems to be getting longer, you know, rather than shorter. I'd love to go to the Indian Ocean, the Maldives, the Seychelles. I haven't done those islands yet. Sri Lanka is a place that's been on my list for a very long time. A lot of island nations and places like that that I have a real interest in that I've never been to. So lots of places, really.
Lots of places. Oh wow. Well, I'm right with you. I'm a travel guru as well. I love going all over the world.
Awesome.
So
I love that.
Maybe one day I'll meet you on the other side of the world or somewhere here in San Francisco.
Yeah, I would love
together.
that. Sounds great. Sounds great.
All right, Josh, thank you so much for joining us here today on Sidewalks. And let us know where you're going next. Come back and talk to us, okay?
You got it. All the best.
For more full-length celebrity interviews, visit sidewalkstv.com.